this, what we're looking at, is totally, you know, vibrant forest altered by people, and it's growing back with probably Douglas fir as the dominant tree. That seems to be the trend here, you know. So in terms of opening up a forest like this, I think the tendency of people with chainsaws is to just not really think about it and cut things down. And so you cannot make things that you cut down come back very quickly. So you really ought to go slow and think about it. So the deciduous species in this forest are very important for soil building and other functions. So, you know, if you don't have to take out alder in some places, you might want to leave them. Okay. All the trees that we see here along the verge of the meadow, you know, tell you that there's plenty of water here. All the trees are linked together with the understory and the forbs, all the vegetation. So the trees and their cohort are important to each other. The understory shades the forest floor, regulates moisture flow. Trees actually will water the plants beneath them. Your two choices in a place like this are burn or chip. And I prefer chipping, you know, because you get a lot of useful material and because you build soil out of that very rapidly. Also, you can use chips to control unwanted plants like blackberry pretty easily. One of my favorite lines is, all tree pruning is for people, not for trees. There is absolutely no scientific-based reason to prune a tree. So trying to think really long term and trying to understand that there's benefits from all the different trees, and that if you make a large change like Michael described and let sun in where no sun has been before, you can have a pretty bad result for many trees. Surprising to a lot of people. But in general, if you go slow and leave some of the shade trees and don't take away all the understory, you can make things more amenable to people that want to use the forest and still leave a healthy forest. So in forests though, one thing I've seen occur numerous times is that people say, oh, this is a great tree and it's in a forest, and then they want to build their zip line out, you know, on x-axis, and they're like, oh, I'm taking that tree next to it out. And what they don't look to see is what the root distribution on their tree is, because in a forest, because of competition, you can have trees like these that are standing up just fine, but they may be relying on a tree nearby, and they may not have many roots in that direction at all. So if you take the adjacent tree out and you leave a tree that only has roots in that direction, you may be setting yourself up for a windstorm when that tree will just fold over, because you've altered the environment, the physical environment, rapidly. So trees can deal with slow changes to the physical environment really, really well, but rapid changes to the physical environment are much tougher for them to deal with. What do you think is the most likely tree failure to happen in this forest? What part of the tree? What tree failure? That's you're talking. Branches. Thanks, Dad. Yeah, branches. It's pretty much always the case that the biggest risk from trees comes from falling parts of the tree, not the whole tree. So that is mistletoe. And the top of the tree is totally declining and going to probably retrench, going to probably prune itself off before long. So, but that is a parasite in that tree, and that's pretty spectacular. But we wouldn't want to build in a tree that has a likelihood of shedding huge parts down onto the treehouse or in the vicinity. Yeah. And we did a lot of work in the early days of Michael's place to make it so that there's pretty good rooting even in those heavily trafficked areas around the main lodge and all that.
There's like inch and a half rock in there.
That was put in with a pneumatic tool, and so we're making a sort of a matrix down there that has lots of pore space, and it can't be compacted. Additionally, you don't see anybody raking leaves at Michael's place or doing anything but blowing off decks and pathways. All of the debris goes down into the forest floor there, whatever it looks like, and it's there to basically create soil for the tree roots. So most people, you know, in America think leaves are some horrifying thing. The debris that falls off your garden is the best mulch money can buy, and you don't pay for it. What do you think the deepest tree root on the ridge up there where we walked through is? Yeah, 3 or 4 feet probably max. Some trees can put roots down very deeply. when the soils permit. And for that to happen, you have to have soil that has free air and free water all the way down. So tree roots will not grow where it's anaerobic. They won't grow for the vast majority of species underwater, and they won't go where there's no pore space. The tiny roots, the fine fibrous roots, not feeder roots, the fine fibrous roots of trees are the basic mechanism by which they grow, and they're dominant in the very top layer of soils, generally around 20 centimeters a foot. You know, very, a lot of variation depending on the soils, but in many places that's where the dominant layer of fine roots is. Foot traffic alone is more than enough to cause serious problems for trees. Lots of roots right in the surface soils, and if you look at what we've done at the bottom of the tree, we're already damaging the very critical root system of the tree right by the base. So these roots are right up. It still looks like leaves, but right in here there's roots. So trying to preserve that anywhere you got it, whatever you got, you want to try to keep it. Already we're just hammering the very critical area right at the base of the tree. So as what I would do, if this were me, I'd build my access trail right away, and I'd probably build, depending on how much activity is going to be in here, I'd put some wood chip down, or, you know, well, some of these sites that we're seeing are so steep that I'm asking them to build a little temporary platform for the workers to put their tools on, to hang out on, and it just eliminates a bunch of turning the duff to dust, which will happen pretty quickly.
To build this house, I will not be down here. Well, basically the first thing I'm going to be building will be the bridge from over here. There'll be a bridge that comes off of this other tree. The trail I'll establish will be up, and I'll build a platform there and a platform here. And the only time we'll have to get down here again is when we bring in the platform to hoist up into the tree. Once we get that platform up in the tree, well, I should not be down here at the bottom of the base of this tree again.
Yeah. On a tree, a little tree right behind us right here, there's a very unusual lichen growing. Well, that Loberia lichen is a very key component of the forest here. It's a nitrogen fixing organism. You know, it's not a plant, it's a lichen. That's actually a cyanobacteria, a fungi, and an algae all functioning together in one plant. But anyhow, it's right there on the tree. It's fun to see. That fixes nitrogen from the atmosphere, and then when storms come or when it sheds parts onto the forest floor, that is a lot of the free nitrogen that's available in these forests comes from that plant. The other tree here that does nitrogen fixing very robustly is red alder. So the red alder is a big source of free nitrogen in the soil.